What up, people? Welcome back to another moto vlog. Hope everybody's doing all right. I'm recovering off of a very serious head injury, so I am doing the best that I can and making every day count at the moment. Anyways, I wanted to go over two things. The first one being the flock camera system, which Jigsaw Bro does a very good job at discussing what those cameras are capable of. But for those in Tennessee that don't know, this is the flock camera or flock system. And I've already asked it, does it check your speed and whatever, which it says no, but you know, that could be complete bullshit. You know, being transparent with everybody. And there's a lot of things that the government doesn't want you to know about these cameras and who has access to them and whatever. Apparently, a private investigator can get access to them, like, you know, if somebody's ex-girlfriend hires a PI and whatever, and they do a little investigating on your boyfriend or whoever, ex-husband, they can get information on where you've been, and it basically pings the location of that car and narrows down the search. I know that's a lot of information in one sentence, so we'll go over all that. So right now we're just going to talk about who has access to them and then what they do and stuff like that. So private investigators being number one, cops, federal agents, and basically anybody in government. So three people or three gurus on the street that have access to it, right? Now let's talk about how they obtain this information. Well, a law enforcement agency, right, or PI, requests camera access. So they request access from a third-party company, which then that information gets traveled however it does or obtained, basically saying, hey, you know, we got your stuff. We are who we say we are, and whatever. So however that transaction pans out is however the private company and the PI does it, and law enforcement, whatever. But you can see which law enforcement agencies get access to these type of requests and where they come from. Well, there's a special guy named Bob, right? And Bob is the CEO or something to do with this company, I believe. Anyways, Bob is very high up in the flock system. So he's the one going around looking at all these cameras constantly, updating them. So he's not a cop, he's not a PI, but he's an employee there. So all flock employees can look at these cameras. And I've even heard that they're placed in weird spots like gyms and stuff like that, which I don't know why in a gym you would need a flock camera. But I don't know, maybe you steal a phone in the locker room or something. But either way, it's kind of weird. You know, like, I'm not going to go to the gym and expect the camera to be pointing at me in the locker room, which is highly illegal, for one. For two, that's just wrong. So what do these cameras do, all right? So I've seen a lot of back and forth in the hipsters for Dixon or Dixon's hipsters group or whatever you want to call it. A lot of people concerned, a lot of people not concerned, a lot of people giving false information and, oh, how they're better for the people, you know, and whatever. So all that bullshit, I kind of zone out because I think it's, like I said, it's bullshit. They don't track your speed, which is what the website says, okay? But what they do track is your plate. And that plate basically comes back and tells them who you are. So they have access to running the database and the system of, you know, whose plate did what and who, you know, whatever, who's been where. And so basically there's another video, a really good example, and it's raining. I don't know if you can hear that. I'm an idiot for taking my bike right now. But anyways, there's a video on Knockout 360's channel, which you should subscribe to if you like police chases. He does a really good job going in depth on police chases. And watch the video, or showed us a video of a purple Dodge Hellcat that was stolen in, I believe, Texas or Fort Wayne, Texas, yeah. Something like that. Fort Worth, Texas. It basically got pinged using the flock system, okay? And they pinged, the cops pinged generally the location of where this Hellcat was coming out of, basically like the subdivision and whatnot, which is kind of cool, but kind of bad, to be honest. Like, so they gathered a bunch of information, did their due diligence, you know, couldn't figure out where the stolen Hellcat was originally, and you know, they led it up to the flock cameras. So the flock cameras were sitting in front of these subdivisions, and you know, they basically did a sting operation, and here's a picture of that. And they basically, like I said, they did a sting operation. They waited and waited and then waited, you know, they waited for the right moment to spike strip the Hellcat when it came out of the subdivision. Now, as a result of this, okay, let's talk about that part. A result of that caused a elderly man to lose his life because of the speeds, for one, and this guy had nothing to do with the chase at all. All right, he was just there. All right, he was basically coming through an intersection, and one of the Fort Worth police officers, and this is completely irrelevant to the context, but it's kind of irrelevant if it makes sense, because if they didn't do the sting operation, this man would still have his life, basically, and that's how I look at it. But so basically, this guy is coming through the intersection, and the Fort Worth police are just going, like, I want to say 80 to 100 miles an hour coming up to this intersection. No stopping, no nothing. So it's kind of on the police's fault, the cause of death, to be honest with you. But they're trying to catch up to the Hellcat, and this car just smacks the shit out of him. Like, head on. Dude flies out the car. Like, it was bad, okay? Maybe the guy wasn't wearing a seatbelt, or maybe he was, and it was just, you know, an old car. I mean, you can watch the video and determine it yourself. The link will be down below for that. But that's basically like the summary of how it's supposed to be helpful, okay? So for that to be helpful, right, you can argue, okay, well, it caught a stolen car, but in a result, a guy lost his life, okay? A civilian got caught in the crossfire and lost his life. The Hellcat got destroyed anyway, so it was a total loss. Like, so I don't know how that helped anybody. Yeah, it put somebody in jail, 2 people or whatever, but like, it didn't help the fact that somebody lost their life over bullshit, you know? Like I said, it doesn't go over speed, it tracks plates, but it also helps with kidnappings. So if there's a kidnapping in your city and you can pin the general location of the vehicle that it, you know, took the person, that girl, boy, son, daughter, elderly man, or whatever, you know, whoever, it could pin the general location of where that van or car went and came from. And they can figure out who was driving that car. Now, it doesn't do facial recognition, but there is other cameras in Colorado that result in AI technology, recognition of who you are, like what you're wearing. So right now I'm wearing all black. So that flock camera would be like, or not the flock camera, but the AI camera would be like, okay, there's a white male with all black, a black helmet, red gloves, driving a white ZX6R Kawasaki, and it would go through the flock system and be like, okay, he's driving a 2025 Kawasaki Ninja. Well, you put that description together and you keep on looking for that person for days on end. Eventually that Kawasaki Ninja and the guy in all black is gonna come around the corner. And you're gonna be like, oh, well, that's the guy I'm looking for. And that's how that stuff goes. So yeah, they do kidnapping. Like I said, the access is very, very limited to who has it, but it's still a very scary thing that the government's using to kind of punish you in a way, like more security or whatever. Or it's not really punishing, I shouldn't say that, but it's a thing that people got to worry about that shouldn't have to worry about it. Like, you know, what if the intentions of whoever made it is actually bad? You know, the Flock CEO, right? The guy literally said, for us civilians knowing where these cameras are, we are considered terrorists because we know where they're placing their cameras. Explain the fucking logic to that. Explain the dumbass logic to that, okay? Like, I'd rather know, like, just like Google Maps, you know, there's ODOT cameras. You can watch these ODOT cameras and whatever. If I'm living in a subdivision or a city with flock cameras, I would like to know where they are so I can either, 1, stay the fuck away from them, or 2, just like, oh, cool, there's a camera right there, and this is what it looks like, you know? Here's a clip of that, you know, when I go past one. Look at that flock camera. But yeah, it's it's a very, very weird situation and a very weird thing. So a lot of states have them. Actually, pretty much every single state has them. But the weird thing about it is Nashville's only got one camera around the whole city. So tell me again why all the smaller cities got all these flat cameras, and all lined up through 40, there is nothing but cameras. So if you guys are ripping on bikes, popping wheelies, and you know, this applies to you guys as well, because it takes one person to make a phone call and they'll start tracking you down, even though they can't be like, well, you know, that's what he was doing, even though it's a photograph. But it's still a surveillance footage that cops can use against you to pin you down for whatever intentions they have. Look at all those chickens. Look at all them chickens. Yes, like the video. I know you're still watching. If you're still watching, give it a like. You got this far, you might as well just hit the like button, man. And then give it a subscribe. And then while you're at it, go visit my other social links and give that a follow as well. Go, 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 go. I'm not stopping, I'm not stopping, I'm not stopping, I'm not stopping, I'm not stopping. I'm just kidding, I'm stopping. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. Anyways, I'll see you all tomorrow.